Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? I will call this meeting to order then at 1:34. Dave, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, we do have one. I will provide the remote tower update under item 14.2. And then just a matter of housekeeping, if anybody has any public comments they'd like to make under that item number 7, the sign-up sheet is back there where the donuts were. And so please sign up so we know that we want to recognize you if you have anything to say under that item. That's it, Madam Chair.
Great. And if everyone can please stand, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance.
To your flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, and then I'll turn it over to you, Dave, to talk about our new member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Switch this microphone is very hard to find. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think as everybody knows, House Bill 1235, when it was passed in 2024, added a 10th ex officio non-voting member from the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment to our board. That position had been vacant for the first 6 months of this year, but a couple of weeks ago, Eric Matson with CDPHE was appointed to that position. He was here earlier, unfortunately had a family situation arise this morning and had to depart early, so he is not here, but he is looking forward to joining us at our meeting in August.
Great. Okay, I think we will next move into the approval of our meeting minutes. Can I get
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, chair votes in approval as well. Okay, next we'll move into our board member reports. It's okay with everyone. We'll just start at the end of the table. So, brief.
Okay. This one on. Okay. Board member reports. For me, there are a few things, and I'm sorry for those of you who in this room are airport operators and managers and stuff. You already know this. So this is for those folks who might be listening in who aren't so familiar with this. There's been some, I would say there's been some confusion in the community. I think about the role and the accessibility of the division in terms of providing and giving information about grants and all of those things. I want to just go on the record as saying that this group in the division is the most accessible, easy to get a hold of, transparent, like greatest group of people to talk to about anything regarding grant funding, anything regarding sort of, I don't know, long-term agreements, grant assurances, just anything that anybody, airport proprietors, anybody in the community has a question about any of these grant things, please reach out to the division directly if you have any questions, if there's any confusion about anything. They are the best people to get a hold of. They are just so easy to work with, and I just want to make that point very clear because they couldn't be easier to work with. So if there's any hesitation that anybody has about working or asking those questions, please feel very free to do so because they're the best, and I think they're super great to work with. I had a chance to speak with CDHPE since our new board member is out. There is a mailer that has gone out. It should be arriving, I think, within the next 5 to 10 business days about the lead exposure in the environment around the airports. That mailer has gone to any zip code that is within a 2-mile radius of all of our public use airports in the state of Colorado. So even those airports that are not, the ones that come up necessarily in discussions about this very recently, all of your airports are going to get those mailers. So if you have questions about any of that, CDHP has a lot of information on their website. The division has a lot of information about the website. You can all feel very free to reach out to me if you have any questions about that, if that would be more comfortable for you, and I'm happy to point you in the direction of any of those resources. But just if you are not aware that your airport was going to be included in that mailer, it is. So I just didn't want that to be a surprise to anybody because there may be people who have questions, and if you weren't prepared for that, now you are. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. So, first of all, I just wanted to say I represent the Airport Operators Association in my position on this board. And so just wanted to say, Dave, great choice on the award for Lori over there. Lori has really impressed me over the years, but she's produced people that have worked for me and bosses that I've had. So that effort that she's put in has really made a difference over time. Good choice. So the other is for the conference. I just wanted to say this is another really well-attended conference. I made a comment in the membership meeting. I was thinking back to the first time I attended CAOA at a conference, and it was in Pueblo, and we would have probably fit everybody in the room in just about 5 or 6 of these tables here. And so it's grown drastically. I think over 200, well over 200 attendees for this conference. Greg, great job on just all of the work going into it. Specifically, the breakfast, that was awesome. I like protein at breakfast, so good job. And CAOA just, again, doing a great job with the conference. And as it relates to the board, I just want to say, combining the board meetings with the conferences really helps, I think, both groups. When I started going, the whole purpose behind that combining was airports had to come in front of the board and present their project, defend it, and it was a 2-day process. And that would let the airports send representatives to the conference and kind of get value for their travel. And that no longer is the case because the division has gotten so much more efficient with the process. But it's still, I think, a huge value to have that combined effort. So thanks for that. And then finally, for Denver International Airport, I just wanted to acknowledge Phil announced his retirement. Phil Washington is our CEO. He's going to retire in August. That was kind of a surprise to a lot of people, but I just wanted to acknowledge that and say he's done a great job. He'll be missed. He got us focused as an airport in getting ready for receiving the growth that's headed our way, whether we're ready for it or not. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and that will conclude my report.
Hey, Madam Chairman, if I can, I'd like to note for the record that we witnessed Steve hanging out at the donut table for most of the morning too.
That's why I was late.
A tough act to follow. Thank you. First, thank you to CAOA for hosting us. I think this is really important. As one of 2 community members who does not work in aviation every day, it's really important, I think, for me to use this as a couple of days of learning and networking. So very much appreciate the opportunity to be included. Really interested this morning in the session, shaping the public perception. Again, as one of 2 community members, I probably hear as much from the public as anybody else about from some of our local airports, particularly on the Front Range. My day job is healthcare. And one of the things that I think is really changed, I probably mentioned this before, one of the things that we did right in healthcare about 15 or 20 years ago was start including the patient in the equation. It's not just about hospital operators and physicians and nurses. We started including the patients. And so I think it's a huge step that we as folks in the industry, as we start including people in the community. So it's very interesting session that we had, and hopefully sessions like that around how to shape that perception can evolve over time. And maybe when we get somebody or a group of folks from the community to hear directly from them, the same way in my day-to-day industry, healthcare, we started hearing directly from the patients. So again, thank you. Nothing further to report.
Well, I'm Mark Van Tine. I'm the at-large member of the board. And I'll admit too, I hung out at the donut table as well. But my report is really going to be a reinforcement of things that we heard today already. You know, it was great to start the morning out listening to Diane Jackson and Casey and Joe talk about the Aspen project that's in front of them. And as Diane, I think, said very well, it takes a village to put together a complex program that's so impactful to the industry, to the community, and certainly to the airport. And their words, all three of them were, I think, were very gracious in their recognition and acknowledgement of people in this room that have helped them in these early stages of this, again, very complex project. And to me, that's just reinforcement again about the power and the wonderful position of the aviation industry and the aviation community within Colorado. This is a very strong aviation state, and we help each other in these moments. And so that opening was, I think, really a great example of that. Another airport that is going through a very significant runway enhancement that we should all note is obviously in northern region, Colorado Regional. NorCal has begun the project to widen their runways from 100 feet to 150 feet. And that has created some restrictions in the use of that airport, but that's a 5 month project, that $20 million project to allow them to bring a little bit larger aircraft into that airport. As we saw on Sean's report, this is going to be a very probably challenging fire season for the state of Colorado, for the region. But Colorado has never been in a better position to respond to that. And when you look at what is happening across the state regarding firefighting resources, particularly in aircraft, the state has added 2 Type 1 Firehawk helicopters, and those are located, one at in Broomfield at NorCal, one in Montrose. The state has 2 Pilatus PC-12s that are based at Centennial Airport. Those are really used for fire detection and real-time intelligence and mapping. The State Fire Division is contracted for a large aircraft, air tanker, for 120 days this year. That aircraft is based in Colorado Springs. And then the state is contracted with 2 single-engine air tankers, one based again in NorCal, or I guess both are based at NorCal. But all these airplanes can reach out into the state within 45 minutes of a report. So the firefighting resources are in place, but it also again represents the use of all of our airports across the state when needed. And I think, Sean, you did a nice job of showing where when they have to be deployed, that they are, and that we have the airports that can support these aircraft as they're fighting fires locally in the area. So, and then Steve mentioned Phil Washington's retirement from DIA. They're about to begin, I believe, a national search for a replacement. But it makes me wonder if there isn't a potential candidate sitting in this room who's running another airport somewhere around Colorado. So I hope people won't be shy and maybe possibly reaching out and applying for that. So, and Madam Chairman, that's my report.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Leslie Summey. I am your Eastern Plains government's representative, and I would like to talk about a couple of airports. The first one I'm very excited about. When I was a child, I could walk through the doors and walk on out there and on to the plane, and everything was very small. But it seems that Colorado Springs has changed since I was a child, and they will be receiving $7.5 million in federal grant funding through the FAA's ATP. The funding is going to support Elevate COS in the terminal modernization project, and that's very, very exciting to know. To date, COS has been awarded a total of $27.5 million in ATP funding for the multi-year project. So very excited about that. And the other thing that I would like to talk about is I always have to put in a good word for folks who are very near and dear to my heart. Centennial, we appreciate the 5K on the runway. My child did not win this year again, and we're going to have to do something about that. So I know that we're going to hear later on about that 5K. And so very excited to complete my report with that information about COS and about Centennial. Thank you, Madam Chair.
My name is Daniel Amelia. I'm the other
Oh, you're doing
Eastern, yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the other Eastern Plains representative, and I'm looking through a lot of the airports that I talked to. There's a lot of pavement maintenance going on this year. So before I get into some of the details, I want to reiterate. I'm sure everybody in the room knows and hopefully uses the crack fill program that the state provides. So at Burlington, we've got a runway fog seal project coming up this year, and we were able to severely reduce the amount of crack fill required for that because last year we borrowed the machine and the one that was in Lamar and used it. And so, that I really urge you all to use that program, use that crack fill machine. It is so fun to operate. Make sure you wear nice white clothes when you use it. Little airports like Burlington, I'm the airport manager at Burlington, and we do everything from sign contracts to scrub toilets. So obviously we're going to be operating that machine, ourselves in-house, and that's a fantastic resource to have out there. So jumping in there, talking to Greg at Lyman, they just did the repair and resealing project on the runway earlier this year. Here's another thing that I don't know that I've seen in a very long time. Talking about Ray, 2 Victor 5 is their airport identifier. They are in the process of changing to a K code. I don't know if anybody realized that. And starting July 9th, they're going to be Kilo Romeo Yankee Alpha RYA. And I don't know when the last time I saw an airport change identifiers before. So that's kind of a neat deal out there. Corey Clark is the new manager, and he sure hit the ground running. So he's working hard to build that airport up, and they've got a lot of really neat things going on there. So talking to Yuma is they're looking for a new city administrator in Yuma, and that's one of those airports where that title of airport manager kind of gets passed around between the city manager and, in this case, the city clerk, Karma Wells, who I've been talking to for many years out there. And I told her she just needs to become the new airport manager, and she didn't seem too excited about that. So moving on to Akron, as a lot of you are aware, we lost a legend out there earlier this year with Randy Hayes at Akron. And so we've been talking with the folks at the city at Akron and making sure that they've got all the information they need to move forward. And at the moment, they've got a acting airport manager who's a city employee. His name is Braden Peel. So they're still working through, getting that process moving forward with a long-term airport manager. But that was sure a tough loss for Colorado with losing Randy Hayes out there. Let's see. Fort Morgan has a pretty new airport manager out there, Mike Bone. Let's see, Lamar got some more pavement maintenance going on. They're working on resealing and some spall repair out there. Lahana, they've got a big mill and overlay project coming up next year. That's all moving forward. And that's just about all. Trinidad, Evan Otto, we saw in the video earlier, that fantastic video that Sean put together. And I don't know if you realize it, and Evan's a Black Hawk helicopter pilot too, and he landed at my airport one day and got gas, and he kind of does a little bit of everything. So he's a great guy to know if you ever have a chance to meet him. So they're doing some terminal improvements, and they have some crack fill coming up and some seal coat. So at Burlington, we're working on, like I mentioned a little bit ago, fog seal on our runway, which we've been really adamant about getting that fog seal done every few years and trying to keep our runway. And it's 22 years old now, the runway? What's that? 20 years old now, and it's in pretty good shape for being as old as it is. If you can keep up with your crack fill and the fog seal, keeping up with that stuff really does a lot for the longevity of your runway. So highly recommend that. And that's why that whole program exists with CDOT Aeronautics and having that crack fill machine and the material. So I believe that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Great. And I realized because we were starting late, I was feeling rushed. I didn't even welcome any of you. So thank you for coming. And also, I'm Angela Padalecki. I am a West Slope government representative and the current board chair here. So I have updates from a few airports in the West Slope. Overall, what I find most remarkable is that the theme across all the airports, really narrows down to kind of three things: construction, growth, and the Aspen closure. So starting with Durango, they recently reached a really cool milestone in their terminal project. They opened their new TSA screening checkpoint and also opened a new airline gate. So they're getting pretty close to the end of that project. And Tony Vicari is here. So if you have any questions, track him down. But it must feel good to be in the final phase. Finally, that's a project has been a long time in the making. So good job. And passenger traffic in Durango remains record breaking. I mean, they have been so busy, including having nonstop service to Houston. That's performing really well. So down in Rifle, they have two big pavement projects underway. They have a new taxiway and apron rehab project. They have a new FBO, Vantage Aviation, that's preparing to open, and there's a lot of construction associated with that. They're on track to open in December of this year. And these projects are really to support the long-term growth and the Aspen closure. Rifle is the closest airport to Aspen, most of you know. In Steamboat, Josh couldn't be here. He sent his apologies, but he's awaiting a new baby. So feel free to reach out to him. We're happy for him. But things are still busy at the airport. So the construction for their terminal area improvements are underway and they're on track for completion in early July. They're also out to bid for runway lighting. In Gunnison, they've started updating their master plan. So huge project. They're hoping to be done with that by the end of 2027. They're in phase 2 of 3 of their GA ramp reconstruction. And then they have a couple of CDOT funded activities going on. They're procuring some new snow removal equipment, and then their runway fog seal should be done in July. And then I think most exciting in Gunnison and probably most noticeable to the aviation community is that they are in the process of redesignating their runway. So their runway will switch from 0624 to 0725 this summer. And Eagle, they're continuing to work on their big taxiway Bravo project, and they just had a record-breaking first quarter. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because that's a question that I've seen come up a lot is, hey, what impact did the drought have on the ski resorts and the ski communities? And I think from a passenger perspective, the impact was far less than what everyone feared. So great job there. And Telluride and Kenny's here, so feel free to ask Kenny any questions you have about his work. But they completed phase 1 of their south side development. That includes taxiway, parking, the apron there, and the earthwork for their phase 2 hangar development, which should be complete in the coming years. In Grand Junction, I'm really excited to share that we received a $5 million grant through the IIJA program. We have a airport-owned contract tower that was built in 1960, so it's old, and it's been treated like it was being replaced eminently for decades. And so we came up with a modernization program. It's hard to fund those projects, so we're really grateful. $5 million really gets us what we need to really do the most urgent rehabilitation, including replacing the glass on the cabs. So big, complicated project that we're excited about and eager to get done. We also have record traffic and capacity in the first half of this year. On our runway replacement project, we're getting ready to reach a new milestone, and that is the paving work will start. The actual paving itself won't start this summer, but the contract is signed and the paving prep really, and work will begin this summer. The runway is scheduled to open in October of 2028. So we finally have a date. You only have 2 more years to hear me talk about it. And then we have a covered parking project that has largely been funded through SIB loans. That project is underway and was partially funded by loans from last year, and it's going well. We are on track for that to open in August of this year. But to really demonstrate the scale, we're covering 1.5 acres of parking lot, so about 100 spaces, and it's enough solar to it exceeds the use in the terminal today, so it's enough solar to match up with the use in the terminal in our expanded configurations. So we're excited about that. And then last, we were talking about the firefighting activity in Grand Junction. We have a wildland firefighting base and the air tanker center there. It's been building a new building. They're almost done with that. And actually right now, the U.S. Interior Secretary is at that facility touring it. So we're really excited to see that project finish up. We're all, I think, concerned about the fire season, but glad that we have the resources to combat it. That's all I have for my report today. Next on our agenda is airport updates. And, when we are meeting remotely and we don't have all the airports here, typically we coordinate with airports to see if they want, to really encourage them to talk about their airport. But since we have so many here today, we wanted to just open it up to see if anyone would like to provide an airport update. We can run the mic over to you. So we're going to start with Greg. He's in the back.
Awesome. Thank you, Cab. Thank you for coming to Pueblo and participating in our conference. Welcome to Pueblo. If you need anything while you're here, please feel free to reach out. We'll make sure you are taken care of. Pueblo Airport, we talked a lot about it these last few hours, day and a half. From a construction side, we're excited to have a taxiway alpha seal coat and crack fill project funded FAA and CDOT as usual. That'll be this summer. We also have 2 exciting projects that have gone through the design phase and are currently in the permitting process. Permitting process for the construction of a new 10T hangar structure on the southwest end of our airport. So we're excited for that, and hopefully to help ease a little bit of the burden of the demand for hangar space that we're all probably feeling and seeing. Brand new hangars will be very sought after. I'm sure we'll have no problem filling those. And then the second more exciting construction project is a full terminal renovation and expansion of our concourse. We currently have a small 20 by 20-ish glass little booth where once you're through to TSA, you sit in some outdated furniture and you're waiting to board the aircraft. We have a design, again, going through permitting at this point, to expand that whole area to the west of the north side of the terminal, so to kind of go over the windows where the restaurant's at. If anybody's familiar, you'll see it firsthand if you guys come out on tomorrow for the tour. This will also include putting restrooms beyond TSA, which we currently don't have now. So as any of us have waited for an aircraft or an airplane, especially in our smaller airports, any delay, weather delay, mechanical delay, and you're stuck in a glass box without restroom or facilities, we feel this is the next evolution of Pueblo Airport to enhance that customer traveling experience. So those are a few updates we have there. Again, thank you for attending our conference and coming to Pueblo. I want to welcome you personally and again, show our appreciation. Tomorrow's airport tour will be very exciting, give you an opportunity to come on out, see the proposed expansion area. The restaurant opened up today, but we are going to have a lunch for you at Freeman Jet Center. I really want to show off what they've done with their FBO facility. It is top notch, and I really appreciate those folks being a sponsor of our conference and then providing tomorrow's hangar party for all of us to come out tomorrow and experience. And with that, if you missed or if you hopefully you got to see the presentation for the aircraft museum, the Weisbrod Aircraft Museum today during our lunch break. She is also offering free attendance to come on through the museum there. And they are a shining asset and a great spot to visit in Pueblo. Please do come out and give that a walk through too. Use your time wisely. I'd like you to come over and see Freeman as well. give yourself just a taste of the museum and leave you some room to want to come back and visit it for a full day. So that is all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Greg. And thank you so much for hosting us here and doing such a good job. Are there any other airports that would like to provide updates or reports?
Thank you, Sean Mahoney with Grand County, so Granby and Kremling Airport. I just wanted to thank CDOT and their staff here for the last 3 years. We just started the apron project, which is $2.8 million with federal and state funds. It was a lot of work to get to this position, and we're looking forward to having this completed this year. And then hopefully in 2028, we can see all of you in Grand County. So hopefully we can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other airports? Okay. And we do not have anyone signed up to provide public comment today. And so we're on to agenda item number 8, the director's report. So I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things for everybody's benefit here. I just want to give a shout out to Todd, Angelica, Caitlin, Kip, and Scott for all the great work they've done with the 5010 and the PCI inspections on the Eastern Plains this year. I also want to thank all of you for accommodating them, because we know it's impactful to your airports when they're doing those important inspections. But those are long, hot days out on the pavement as they come and take a look at your airports. We really appreciate it. I think you all know that's the data that, along with our pavement engineers input, goes into our pavement maintenance program that then really is the key piece of data that we use when we prioritize our CDAG grants for pavement maintenance. So I just want to give Todd and his team a shout out. They knock them out really quickly. And then again, thank all of you for your help in doing that. We do about a third of our airports every year, so we'll see all of you at least once every 3 years, and they really do a great job with that. And of course, we love it because it gives our team an opportunity to get to know you and really to see your airport firsthand, rather than relying on a contractor to do that on our behalf, which is how a lot of states do it. So we are very personal and relational, and that's one of the key ways we do that. So thanks, Todd, for you and everybody over there for doing that this year. One of the other cool things we're working on is a new aviation weather reporting collaboration with CDOT's Division of Maintenance and Operations. So I think it's no secret, everybody in here knows that we own and operate a network of 13 high-altitude AWOS-3 units across the state. A couple of them are on airports, but most of them are in remote locations, not on an airport. Most of those are approaching 25 years old. They're at their end of their life and are going to need to be replaced. But a new AWOS unit, as some of you may know, it's over 7 figures typically to replace an AWOS. They're not cheap. And we don't really need an AWOS-3 on top of a mountain pass. Nobody is using that weather data to shoot an ILS approach to minimums, but they do need key information. And so we are looking at some alternatives that would be way less expensive and way easier to cite than an AWOS-3. And so it's a really cool thing. The folks that used to run the Alaska Weather Camera program, these FAA folks, have since left the agency and retired, but they have such a passion for weather. They're developing a new program and a new product called MWOS, or Montes Weather Observing System, that will provide really robust aviation weather data, the same thing you get off of an AWOS-3, maybe not quite to the same specificity that you would get, but at a cost that is a fraction of a new AWOS-3. And they're working to develop this product. It's really cool. You can put it in a place where there's no power, where there's no data. And so we are going to be the first state aviation agency outside of Alaska to partner with Montes to evaluate 3 of these at locations in Colorado starting here in July. We'll test those for a year, see how it works. Todd was successful in squeezing some money out of our ground-based folks at CDOT to help us with that, because one of the cool things about these units is they also have 360-degree weather cameras that will benefit CDOT's highway side too. And so they're very interested in this technology. And of course, CDOT owns a lot of right-of-way where we'll be able to put these potentially and not have to pay leases like we do on some of our current AWOS units. So thanks to Todd and his leadership there, we're looking forward to working with that and using some other people's money to do that. But we're going to put 3 of them in to test. One is going to go up on Berthoud Pass adjacent to our existing AWOS unit, so we can validate how it collects data versus a certified product like the AWOS-3 that's up there. We're also going to put one out on Last Chance out on Highway 36 out on the Eastern Plains. One of the things we've heard from a lot of our helicopter EMS operators, if you look at our airport map, there's a big hole where we really don't have any airports out in that part of Colorado. There's a lot of accidents on Highway 36. There's a lot of accidents and calls they get on I-76. We're going to look at putting some of these stations out there, not on airports, and we're going to evaluate one in Last Chance. It's going to go to CDOT location out there. So very cool collaboration there. And then our third and last one, we're going to put it on a CDOT piece of property up on Cameron Pass, which is on Highway 14 west of Fort Collins. And years ago, that was identified as one of the areas where we've seen a significant number of aviation accidents related to weather, but we don't have any weather reporting up there. And we can't put an AWAS 3 there because there's no power and there's no cell service where that needs to go on Cameron Pass. So this might be a great opportunity to do that because guess what? It uses Starlink to get the data out there. So we can put them anywhere and they run on solar or propane. They're very low draw as opposed to an AWAS 3. So very cool. We'll get the information out to you as we get those up. We'll look for your feedback, pilots in the room. But this could be the start of a new collaboration where we begin replacing our AWAS 3s with different units that cost way less and can do way more. So stay tuned, but kind of exciting on that front for us. Very cool. And then the last thing I'll touch base on is as part of our ongoing engagement with our 5 metro area front range airports that are subject to additional grant and other requirements per House Bill 1235. Just to let you know, we've scheduled our regular check-in with those airports next week on June 17th. So that's Rocky Mountain Metro, Centennial, Boulder, Longmont, and Erie. And again, that's our regular touch point with all of those airports to keep it fresh in your mind what their requirements are. They've got some different things they need to do to get our grant money and just an opportunity to check in, see how it's going with the unleaded transition. And then it allows us to fulfill the bill statutory requirement of us to make sure we're doing that with airports. So a good opportunity for us. And we're doing those on a quarterly basis with those 5 airports. But we'll share all that information with everybody else as well. So Madam Chair, that's it for my director's report for now.
Did you want to talk slides?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that one. I didn't write that one down. Yeah, last one real quick. Sean's got video up there. So yeah, I'll get that. Yeah, you got it. Cool. So sorry about that. I forgot that. I've got my wrong set of notes in front of me here. The fire trainer, we talked about this at our last board meeting. The division partnered with the Colorado Department of Public Safety to purchase a live fire ARF trainer that's mobile. So you can take this to your airport and actually use a real prop, either for part of your triennial exercise to have real fire rather than a bus filled with smoke. And to actually do some ARF training. So here's a video of it being used by some folks at Grand Junction and Telluride, down at Kenny's Airport in Telluride. So very cool new partnership. Again, we leveraged our money with the public safety group's money to put this trainer out there to definitely give all of the Part 139 and other, non-Part 139 fire districts that might not know about aircraft fires, the opportunity to get training from the Department of Public Safety on how to address aircraft fires. So very cool. Kenny, thanks for hosting them down there here recently, but very cool there. Go ahead, Sean. And then the other thing was kind of cool. I'm a train nerd, even though I've been in aviation my entire life. And I think my whole team knows that. But we had a very cool opportunity on Tuesday here to go tour the Transportation Technology Center east of here, where they do a ton of very cool rail testing. I had no idea the scope of what they do, but I was really fascinated with what they're doing with drones and UAS and beyond visual line of sight drone inspections for rail infrastructure, rail safety. It's just a very, very cool facility. They were testing a brand new Siemens train set. It was probably 5 or 6 cars already painted up in Amtrak colors. It will be the new 160-mile-an-hour train that runs up and down the East Coast to replace the Acela. If you've ever ridden that back east, it was very cool. We were not allowed to take pictures of it. So sorry, there's no pictures of that, but it was really a fascinating opportunity to learn more about transportation and transportation security. And it's kind of cool to see something we don't normally get to see outside of aviation. So if you ever want a tour, let us know. We know people now, which is pretty cool. And then the last thing I'd want to say is Steve already addressed, is Phil Washington's retirement as the CEO of Denver International. Since he joined the airport in 2021, he has continued the legacy of Kim Day and all of those before him as huge supporters of our division. And 82 or 85%, depending on the year, of our revenue comes from activity at Denver International. And so it's really important that we have a key relationship with them. We were unfortunately not able to get a plaque produced for him prior to this because he announced it kind of unexpectedly, without a lot of notice. But we will have a similar presentation of this plaque to provide to Phil, Steve, at a location and time that would work for him. So I might coordinate with you on making that happen. But we're hoping that, again, whoever replaces Phil will continue that great legacy of being strong supporters of our division. Thank you.
Sorry. Well, thanks, Dave. Next, we have our financial update, so we'll turn it over to Bryce.
Oh, thank you. I will forewarn people with this being earlier in the month, financials are put out a little bit here. So the very first slide that we look at with the revenue report, it says May's revenue came in at 4.9 million, which was 82% of forecast. I got some grief from the director. Why are we at 82%? We need to add context to this, which I didn't have at the time. The revenue came in late. We ended up right at 6.1. So we ended up basically 100% of what we had forecast for revenue for this month. Again, largely driven by fuel prices being up for all of the geopolitical reasons we won't get into here, but high fuel prices plus Denver continuing to set just all-time highs with fuel flow means the revenue is actually ticking up. So I am going to speak a little on off the cuff and not necessarily lining up with the slides here, but to date, we actually are sitting a lot closer to 50 million in total revenue, which was actually our forecast for the entire year. So we will be likely ending up the fiscal year much closer in that 55, 56 range. So ahead of pace. Back in April, which was kind of the final time we adjust the forecast at the end of the quarter, I did advise that we were going to leave it at 50. We knew there was impact coming, but we didn't really know what that was going to look like. So we are going to end up quite a bit ahead of forecast, which you to pick ahead or behind. We're gonna take ahead every time. So the revenues continue to be strong, and we're on pace to have the second largest revenue in division history. The three highest ones have been the last 3 years. So we continue to see great numbers as it pertains to our revenue. On the cash balance side, we finished May at 24 million. It was up a couple $100,000 from closing balance in April. It was less than anticipated. Again, no surprise. The revenue that came in late affected that. But overall, finances continue to look great. We do anticipate the overall balance going up a little bit this month. It probably won't be as much as you would think with all the extra revenue coming in, simply because it's the end of the fiscal year. I'm going to do my rant here on accruals after this, but we see a spike in drawdowns and already have throughout the month here, which is good. And so we expect higher expenditures going out than the normal months, which always seems to happen in June as airports get their stuff in. And we're able to draw that down a little bit, but still with revenues the way they are, I don't think there's going to be enough drawdowns to keep the balance from trending upward still. So we remain very strong there. Our contingency analysis slide, again, just shows how strong of a position we're in. Our cash balance on hand remains in the mid-20s right now, even forecasting through the end of the next fiscal year. We're still showing a balance, and that's at the end of the year, our worst case kind of implemented of above 20 million currently. I'm not going to talk too much on this slide because we're going to dive into it a little bit later with one of Dave's as far as a future item. But again, just fuel levels are around $90 a barrel. Denver's averaged over 50.7 million gallons the last 12 months as compared to our worst case forecasts where we've got fuel prices at $45 a barrel and 38.5 million in flowage in Denver. So we'll discuss all that at the workshop, how those numbers look if they need to be massaged. But the overall scheme of things here is, we've got a good balance of our cash and good plans to keep the grant programs and stuff high. And yeah, we're riding the wave there as it comes to just consistent revenues and cash balances. Admin expense wise, again, our mandated 5%, the cap is 2.2 million that we could spend on expenses. Our approved amount from you guys all the way back to January 2024 for this year is 900,000. Year-to-date spend is about 703, and the forecasted that we're going to be about is about 790,000. So we're well below the budget set. As we anticipated, we're not even within ballpark of the 5% number. So our overall spend on admin costs for the division is going to end up right in that 1.7% of overall revenue from the previous fiscal year. So lean and mean, as we like to keep it. So we maintain to be on pace there. And then finally, looking at fuel flow at Denver, like Dave mentioned, between 75 to 80% of our revenue comes from the fuel flow at Denver. So we track every vendor, we track every month so that we know what's going on there. And if I do ever have to come here and say we're only at 82% of forecast, I'll have a reason why this vendor didn't file or that sort of stuff. But as you can see, last month there was 53.6 million gallons flowed at Denver. That was up 7% from April's 51.9 and up 7% from May of 2025. They're 49.9 million. So again, the numbers just remain, as you can see there, those are all record numbers. We're back at 4 months in a row of record numbers month over month because February did dip below, but we're something, it's like 26 of the last 27 months have set new monthly records for fuel flow at Denver. So tracking that, the forecast for June flowage I was given was 55 million gallons. That would be up 3% from May and 1% from June of last year. If you look at that graph, we consistently see a spike from June to May. So I suspect that's on the low side, but we'll see what that ends up out. Again, all the geopolitical things and the price for flying could have an effect, but it's continuing to follow the same monthly trends, which it does at an amazingly consistent pace, which makes my job easier. But yeah, fuel flow is high. We all know prices are high, fuel wise as well. So we continue to be well funded and in a unique spot to keep grant programs at new historic levels that they've never been at before consistently and being able to do all sorts of fun things throughout the state. With that, happy to answer any questions from anybody on the board. You're making it easy on me, Mark. All right, that's it then.
The button. I think you have the next one as well, Bryce, right? So we can just roll into 9.2.
Yep, I do. This is just my annual reminder to airports. About 3 weeks ago, I sent out the emails right through WIMS reminding you it is accrual season, which nobody likes. But if you have a grant with the state, draw it down. We much prefer that. Get your payments in. A lot of you go to your consultants anyways to help get the accrual number put together. Just get the stuff and do a drawdown, and then you don't have to do an accrual. But if you're not doing the drawdown, please send us an accrual with the dollar amount of work that has been or will have been done through June 30th so that we can accrue it from a revenue standpoint, as is one of our requirements through CDOT. So that's the last you'll hear from me on that. If you don't get that in, you might see a little bit of delay in payments if you're looking for it in July as we go through the accrual process that we're statutorily mandated for. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach me or your planner. They'll get you in touch with me and we'll get that done. But yeah, certainly recommend and appreciate people getting drawdowns done so you can get that money in your pocket for the work that you're paying for. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce. Now we'll turn it over to Angelica to give an update on the interns.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'll provide the administrative updates today, starting with 5 supplemental amendments. Our first being at Perry Stokes Airport, grant 23 TAD01 will have additional funding of $953.17 and a new expiration date of June 30th, 2027. This is to match the additional FAA AIP funding towards the taxiway and apron pavement rehabilitation project. Following, we have the San Luis Valley Regional Airport Bergman Field. Grant to be amended is 23 ALS 01 with additional funding of $4,947.42 and a new expiration of June 30th, 2027, again to match additional FAA AIP funding toward the SRE and ARF building construction project. We next have Spanish Peaks Airfield with grant 23 for Victor 101 with additional funding of $2,083 and a new expiration of June 30th, 2027. This is again to match additional FAA bill funding toward the airfield electrical rehabilitation project. And then the last one of those is for Glenwood Springs, so KGWS Summers Air Park, grant 25 GWS 01 with additional funding of $19,138.50. This is state funds to assist in addressing a funding shortfall for the airfield pavement maintenance project. Oh, my apologies, there's one more. And then being Fremont County Airports, grant 25-1 Victor 602, additional funding of $1,385 to match additional FAA AIP funding toward the taxiway and apron pavement rehabilitation project. We have one term extension for Pueblo Memorial Airport. So 23 PUB 01 with a new grant expiration of June 30th, 2027. This will allow more time for the airport's contracted engineering firm to comply with FAA's recently changed AGS data collection requirements. Lastly, we got a intern request for Yampa Valley Regional Airport. The grant amount is for $7,089. We'll provide a 50% match on a $23.63 per hour wage rate. And we did do the math on that one.
Great job, Angelica. Sorry. Does anyone have any questions for her before we move on? Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to Dave so that he can talk about the recognition program today.
Awkward switch I've ever seen on a microphone. Glad about the only one. Just to recap real quickly, if you were here for lunch, our annual 2026 division recognition program saw our awards given out. We did 4 of them this year. The first one, as you know, was our Aviation Professional of the Year, was Jackson County Manager Samantha Martin. Unfortunately, she was not able to be here in person for lunch, but I understand that Sam has been able to join us by Zoom. So Sam, congratulations. I'm sorry it does not come with a big stipend or a memoriam or anything like that. But again, congratulations. We really appreciate the opportunity to work with you and the whole crew up there on the runway project at the Walton Jackson County Airport. If you have any comments, Sam, we'd have you unmute. All right.
She is there.
I apologize.
So she's good.
I just got here. I was in an after action meeting. So Airport of the Year. We got Airport of the Year.
You are the Aviation Professional of the Year, Samantha. Oh. This is for you specifically.
What? Oh my God.
Congratulations.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say. You guys, this is oh my gosh. I'm such a ball baby. Thank you. I don't feel like I could have done any of this without the team. I mean, Kip, Todd, everybody down, David, all of my team at Lochner, my team here at the county. It took all of us. The commissioners. Oh my gosh. You guys are blowing me away. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's great.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's Samantha, it's certainly very well deserved. And as soon as we can find an opportunity, we'll look forward to coming up to your beautiful part of the state and presenting this to you in front of your county commissioners or any other venue you'd like.
I thank you so much. I am so honored. I am happy to do it, and I love the airport. And so this has been a passion project. So I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. Our second award that we presented was our Airport of the Year, as Kip presented to the Haxton Municipal Airport. And unfortunately, also Ron Carpenter from the city of Haxton was unable to be here in person, but he also is online today. And Todd just texted him a minute ago to tell him that they had won the award. So Ron, I would turn it over to you, but we really appreciate all that you do to take care of that airport and the innovative ways you make it work with not a lot of resources. And so congratulations. We're happy to recognize you this year.
Thank you, Dave. We greatly appreciate that. And I'll be honest, this came as a huge surprise. We have worked tremendously hard over the past several years to make as many improvements as we can with the limited funds. I would like to recognize Todd Green and Kip McLean. They have both been extremely helpful in not only guiding us through funding mechanisms or just giving me basic information on how we can make improvements. So, like I said, this is a great thing. It's totally unexpected, but we definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Ron, well deserved. And of course, the same offer is valid for you. We're happy to come out to your neck of the woods and present this award in person at a place you would like us to. So just let us know. We'll get out there to do that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
The third award was the Partnership Award for the Department of Local Affairs. They were here in person. Amy Watanabe was here, so that was fantastic. Again, they were a key part of the runway project at Jackson by contributing $1 million of DOLA funding to that project, along with several $1 million of division and Jackson County funds. So really appreciate our partnership with another state agency in DOLA. And then lastly, I'd be totally remiss if we didn't recognize Lori Hinton again for 36 plus years of service to Colorado Aviation and Centennial Airport. Hopefully you don't go too far. We still keep in touch and see you once in a while. So anyway, congratulations again, Lori, and profound impact that we can't even begin to talk about. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And I think that was my favorite reaction ever of an award. Well done. I just want to take a moment to recognize Lori. I mean, CDOT has been recognizing her, but I mean, her impact in aviation, everywhere you go, there are people. I was just in Chicago meeting with airlines, and, you know, my friends who are there who work for United, they all wanted to ask about Lori and if she had retired yet and what she's doing. And, you know, Dave, when you said that she has trained much of the workforce, and paraphrasing, I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It is so hard to find people. I mean, Ian Turner was there and asking if you had retired yet. I mean, there's just so many people. You can't go anywhere in aviation without finding people who know and love Lori. So well done. Our next agenda item, number 11, I am going to recuse myself and turn it over to Daniel as vice chair to lead this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So agenda item number 11, Grand Junction Regional Airport Aviation State Infrastructure Bank Loan, and I'm going to send that over to Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. So on May 8th, the Division of Aeronautics received an additional SIB loan application, so State Infrastructure Bank application, accounting for $5.5 million from the Grand Junction Regional Airport. And that is why Angela is backing out of this one for a little bit. This $5.5 million loan application is for actually several landside projects going on. This would actually be the third loan for the airport to really redo a majority of their landside commercial parking lots. So this $5.5 million is actually kind of planned for 4 separate projects. As you can see actually on this screen, one of those projects is finalizing their covered parking structure, kind of in the center of their commercial parking lot right there. This covered parking structure will have solar panels on, and then we'll also be providing, I believe, electrical vehicle charging underneath it as well. And so this project was somewhat started on a previous loan, and then this funding will also help get that one finalized. It'll also help with the rehabilitation of some of those pavements within that area as well. The second piece of this loan application has to do with the modernization of their existing, and this was a new thing for me since I don't work actually at airports, their parking access revenue control system. I learned a new acronym through this application, but this will allow a much better flow of those cars in and out of that those parking lots as well. And so then the third thing, again, making things easier for the flying community, is the design and construction of some exterior wayfinding, some pedestrian lighting, and some curbside improvements. Again, just trying to make the airport as usable as possible for those utilizing the airport. And then if there are funding left over after those 3 amazing projects, the other plan is to use the remaining funding to rehabilitate Walker Drive, which is their entrance road into the airport, and then really hope to kind of do some additional public parking lot improvements as well. So as you can see on this screen, that was kind of the parking lot here. How many years ago was that parking lot? That being your only option. Was it 5 years ago when the first SIB came through?
No.
Okay, there's two additional parking lots beyond this that has been funded with SIB funds as well. There's one just to the left of this screen and then to the bottom left of the screen as well through recent SIBs as well. So there have been a lot of improvements going on here at the airport and a great utilization of the SIB funds. So the SIB program is actually currently used by 6 different airports. In total, the actual fund itself accounts for just under $37 million for this state infrastructure bank program. But all but 1.6 of that million, 1.6 million of that fund is out to airports. And then actually a 7th airport is most likely going to execute another loan here, hopefully this week or next week, that will actually reduce that 1.6 million available down to under $1 million. So that's not enough money to give the airport. And so again, we looked underneath all the couch cushions and looked at the future loan payments coming through. But we are actually working with the SIB manager at CDOT. We are actually going to borrow $1.8 million from the highway loan account as well to make this project whole. So again, really looking to utilize all those funds that are out there for us to use. And again, it's a great application to us. This board is really responsible for ensuring that this project meets the intent of the SIB program. The actual fiduciary review aspect of that does go to the Office of Financial Budget and Procurement at CDOT headquarters. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I will actually throw it over to Angela to see if she has any additional details, especially on that new acronym I learned through your application. So thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Todd?
Okay, well, at this point, I
think we've got one.
You have one? Okay, perfect.
Not a question, just more of a statement, just parking sometimes seems like an odd thing, but for us to be able to kind of help find funding for projects like this, parking, and especially the way this project is structured, is really going to help an airport to be more financially sustainable, as well as sustainable with the electricity produced. So I just think it's a great project. Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. And so with that fiduciary review as well, so following an approval, if it happens here shortly, an SIB review committee actually gets together, made up of one of this board. Dave is on it, our SIB manager as well. And is it the CFO as well? And the CDOT CFO is on that. And so that meeting is actually somewhat scheduled for next week currently. And so with that, I am looking for a motion to approve CAB Resolution 2026-06, approving the aviation SIB loan application dated May 8th, 2026, submitted by the Grand Junction Regional Airport, contingent upon favorable recommendation of the SIB Review Committee and the Transportation Commission's approval of the Highway SIB fund transfer of $1.8 million.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
Thank you very much. And congratulations.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have our remote tower additional funding discussion. Dave, I'm going to turn this one over to you to lead.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Madam Chair. I think just for the benefit of everybody's background, not just for the CAB, and I know I visited with each of you on this agenda item, but clear back in 2014, our division collaborated with FAA to pioneer the development of remote air traffic control tower technology in the U.S. And you'll note I'm calling it remote towers. We had been calling it digital towers. It had been remote towers. The FAA changed their vernacular to digital, and now they've changed it back. So we are going to adjust ours back to remote, so we align with the FAA. So that's the rationale for you seeing that word now. But by using a network of cameras, radar data, and other sensors, remote tower technology can provide increased airport safety efficiency, capacity at a much lower cost with better scalability and flexibility than a traditional, what you would call a sticks and bricks control tower. So recognizing that here in Colorado back in 2014, we have a lot of airports that would benefit from that technology. The CAB at that moment approved $8.9 million of funding to the FAA to help develop a pilot remote tower program here in here in Colorado, to help the FAA develop the certification standards that would be used across the country. So the FAA and we back then selected the Northern Colorado Regional Airport up in Loveland to be that site here in Colorado. And just a quick recap, in 2018, that system was installed at FNL, and the testing and the development began shortly thereafter. Think back to 2020 and COVID, we had about a 2-year pause where no testing took place because the FAA was not allowed to travel out here to do what they needed to do on site, which was an unfortunate piece of timing. The FAA had selected Sea Ridge Technologies out of Canada to be the technology provider for that system at FNL, but unfortunately, late in 2023, Sea Ridge told the FAA they were no longer interested in pursuing that because, quite honestly, the FAA kept moving the goalposts, and it was getting a little bit frustrating for the vendor. At the same time, Saab, who was doing the other remote tower project out in Leesburg, Virginia, also tapped out for the same reason. And since then, there really has not been any activity in Colorado with the development of remote towers. In the meantime, though, what the FAA elected to do was to take all of that testing back to the Atlantic City Airport in New Jersey, where their tech center is, to do the system design approval process, to develop the specs and the standards there on site at Atlantic City. So we've just been kind of in a hold mode since then. The good news is the FAA has been making great progress. There's been a lot of attention and focus, as you all know, and momentum on air traffic issues in the United States currently, including on remote towers. And the plan is now, as we've heard from FAA, that system design approval of the Frequentis system will be complete in August or September of this year. So that's a big milestone. It's taken forever, but it's very, very close. We can see the light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. So as I mentioned at our April meeting on April 15th, the day before, the FAA issued a request for proposals from partners to get back in with FAA to do future remote tower, not testing, but actual installations of this now certified technology at airports across the country. And the good news is with that RFP comes an allocation of $36 million of federal funding that we could leverage to do that here in Colorado. So at that moment, I hadn't had a chance to review the RFP. It had only come out the day before. At that time, it had a 30-day response window, which we and a bunch of other people told the FAA that's just not workable. And they've since extended the response deadline to June 22nd. So that's good news with us. Since then, Fort Collins has decided they want to pursue a traditional tower solution, and they're working on some congressional earmarks to do that. That was certainly their prerogative. They were great partners of ours. We understand their position, so no love lost there whatsoever. But that doesn't mean we're done. We've got a lot of other airports in Colorado that could really benefit from this technology, particularly over on the western slope, where we see a lot of airports with seasonal traffic and peaked traffic and bad weather and all of these things. So airports like Durango, Rifle, Hayden, Montrose, Telluride, Rick over at Gunnison, none of those airports have towers, but almost all of them have commercial service. And so we're looking to long-term aspirational goal, as we've talked with you all before, look at a digital tower, remote tower center concept like they're using in Europe, where you use one central facility to control multiple airports, which even further lowers the costs and makes it more efficient. And we are still very much excited about that concept here in Colorado. As part of the RFP process, the FAA asked for questions about the RFP. We asked the question of, would you consider a digital tower, remote tower center in this proposal? And they said, if it meets all the technical criteria, we'd consider it. So that is our intent, is to respond to that RFP, offering up an opportunity to try out a remote tower center with an alternative offer of just doing one airport. So if for some reason they decide they're not comfortable with that, after all, we're not just tossed out of the mix. So we're working on that proposal as we speak now. The two airports that we're working with currently click a lot of the boxes in the RFP criteria, and that's Durango and Rifle. Durango, of course, a very busy general aviation and commercial service airport with significant military activity. And you all heard about Rifle in Sean's video, just a really very, very busy general aviation airport in the Roaring Fork Valley. So What we would like to do, and what I'm here to respectfully ask for the CAB, is some funding to go along with that. One of the notes that the FAA made in the RFP was, quote, proposals offering a higher cost share contribution will receive a more favorable evaluation and increased likelihood of selection. So with that, and also with the acknowledgement that this is going to be expensive, and that that's a very short-term expensive burden for a couple of relatively small airports, I see an opportunity for us as a division to step back into this space with some funding to make us a better choice for FAA, to leverage some federal money rather than more of ours, partner up with some airports and get back into this game to make these airports safer and more efficient and all the things I said before. So what I am here to ask for you, kid asking parents for allowance money, is I am respectfully requesting from the CAB a conditional commitment of $5 million through resolution 2026-07 that we would include with our RFP that would be allocated if we were selected. And then at a later time, if that were to happen, we would come back to you with a formal budget amendment and the request. That money would not be provided to FAA as we did before. That money, as we envision it, if allocated, would be put into our grant program with a set aside where we would provide funding to the airports directly for them to install this equipment. We've got that process in place. It's cleaner. We've got a lot of control over it. I think it's a really great way to go. So before I turn it over to Bryce to talk about the financial implications of that relative to what he shared with you earlier, I'll pause and see if there are any questions from the board. It's always been my policy never to ask anything of you that you haven't heard at a board meeting previously. Unfortunately, the timing of the response process and the June 22nd deadline does not afford us that opportunity. Hence my discussions with each of you individually about this, so it wasn't too big of a surprise in front of 100 people.
I thought I was in trouble.
No. So anyway, happy to answer any questions about that. And then we'll talk a little bit more about our program manager with digital towers, remote towers here in a little bit.
I've got one. So is Bryce going to talk about the financial part of this in a second?
If you have any questions about the technical piece, now's your chance. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Bryce to give a little briefing on where we're at financially with this request.
So just on the technical part, do you have any idea of how long that process would take if we get that approval and that funding and things start moving again? Will the FAA join in and move the process a lot faster than they did last time, or any way of even guessing that?
Steve, I think that is indeed the case. I can't give you an exact time frame because we don't know, but with the SDA in hand, the vendor will then know what they've got to put at an airport to meet that criteria. And then I think it's a matter of funding and construction, and it certainly will not be 12 years. It's probably, 18 to 24 months potentially from the time of the award. All right, I'll turn it over to Bryce to talk a little bit about the fiscal impact, because we would not be here asking for this if it were going to have a deleterious effect on our fiscal position or our future grant programs.
Yeah, so in your packet, you should have a graph on there that forecasts out, when I show the contingency slide there, I always say, 12 months out, we go down to the worst case. This is what the longer term financial picture looks at an actual forecasted amount. As you can see, do we have the chart up, Sean? We're finding it here just so people can see it, but it forecasts out through the end of it was FY 29 what the cash balance looks like, with that 5 million kind of implemented at some point in 2027. I would say it's unlikely it would be that soon that gets tied in with that, but just from a commitment standpoint, and for context for everybody else, the piece that's put together there, that still has our regular CDAG program at a consistent level that it's been at in the, I want to say 15 million range, 15, 16 million range. So what we're proposing be set aside for this specific project right now, based on forecast data that we have, isn't going to affect, oh, well, that just means there's only 10 million for the other ones. That's a completely separate thing. So as we forecasted this out, we looked, hey, do we have the resources to take $5 million and just set this aside in the future, commit it to something without actually, pocketing it into a specific cost center? Yes. And the overall picture is, yes, we unequivocally do. When you factor in the SIB portion, historical context, over the last 5 years, the division has put $9.5 million from the division's account into the SIB account because there was good projects to use for that. Thank you, Sean. Because there was good projects for that, there's a use for that. So it's out there. And as payments come back, if we ever get into a financial situation where things are starting to trend down, that yellow line up there on the screen, that's really the cash that we could, within a couple of years, have access to if we ever needed to access that. But as you can see from this graph up there, the red line there shows our CDAG program. It's not dipping down. This is completely separate from that. So our cash balance on hand that we're projecting through the end of FY29 remains well above $12 million with that extra $5 million thrown in. Healthy CDAG program. Now, the reason you never ever see me show a slide this long is because if any of it could predict the price of oil, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. But this is the forecast number, not a worst case, not me tampering a thing. Our forecast has an automatic 13% conservative bent to it just based off of historic EIA numbers and forecasts. Long answer short, we have the funds on hand to do this. We have the funds on hand to commit this without affecting our program in the future in a negative aspect. So as a business manager, I would have no problem recommending the adoption, taking a positive action on this to commit in the future $5 million to this project should we get it, and we'll deal with the allocation of that at this time or at that time. But based on the way everything is, and I'm not even necessarily going because we build in a flat thing. We don't project revenue increasing forever because that's never a good strategy either. But based on all of the data that we have now, based on the cash reserves we have on hand now, and the commitments that we have, I have no problem recommending that the board do pass this motion. Happy to answer any questions as minute or as detailed as you have.
No, somebody can have a comment. So since we don't have a giant financial hurdle, which usually is a problem in these kind of situations, since we don't have that big hurdle to get over, then you take a look at that. This will be a competitive bid in some ways, and looking across the country, other than Leesburg, I can't imagine that anybody has more experience so far with remote towers than we do. But more importantly, David, you made a comment. I think it's worthy to note it again, which is you look at the number of airports and the types of airports that we have in this state that would benefit from this. I don't know that any other state has such a wide range of airports, types of airports, and types of areas where this could really benefit the country. And so, we actually offer a value add to the FAA because of our experience and because of the original investment that we made up at FNL. So I think this is I think there's a little bit of risk here, and I think it's absolutely worth taking. And we have a good story to tell and a good foot to put forward, and some great solutions that will help Colorado aviation, and not just in the state, but us across the country. So this is an important project.
I was also just going to add, I know we have a lot of discussions about safety and how some of our funding goes towards projects that enhance safety, and I've expressed some reservations about how some of those projects may contribute to safety. To me, this is a crystal clear money spent on safety. The conflict at some of these airports between commercial traffic and GA traffic, and I've heard about, Montrose, some of these commercial flights having to execute multiple go-rounds because they get cut off by a GA plane, on the same landing, things like this. I mean, I think this is an absolute no-brainer for some of these very busy commercial airports in areas that have, I think, sort of existing somewhat dangerous situations in our mountain communities with, we've got altitude, we've got very interesting weather, all of those things. From a purely actuarial standpoint, $5 million for the cost of an accident is nothing. It's absolute peanuts. I think this is to me, a very easy yes. it does a great thing for our state, for our community, for our aviation industry, but from a purely safety standpoint, it feels like a very easy thing that we should be running towards, I think.
Are there any other questions?
I'm happy to read the staff recommendation on a motion if you would prefer that I do that. If we're to that point. All right, Madam Chair, staff recommends approval of resolution 2026-07 for the conditional commitment of $5 million of division funds for future remote tower system development, contingent on the selection by the Federal Aviation Administration of the division's proposal to be submitted in response to the FAA's request for proposals for remote towers in the National Airspace System. I will not read the proposal number that's in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I just have one comment. I want to thank Dave and his team for really seizing this opportunity. We appreciate that you usually try to not surprise us, but this is a happy surprise. So thank you.
And I have to tell you, Madam Chair, we really appreciate the support of the board on being innovative on things like this. It can be risky at times, as we've learned, but we appreciate this. And again, I just always am thankful for the structure that allows us to take advantage of these opportunities quickly, which I don't think any of my other peers in any other state aviation agency could be this responsive. It's just makes me thankful for the way we're set up every single day.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, chair votes in approval as well.
Thank you. And we will be submitting our proposal on June 22nd, right before the deadline. And I will be sure to share a copy of that with all of you when we send it to FAA.
Thank you. Okay, next we have our industry update. And Dave, would you like to introduce Mike?
Sure, I appreciate it. Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce Mike Flish with the Colorado Aviation Network and talk a little bit about a relatively new group in Colorado and some of the cool things that they're doing. So I'm going to implore you to maybe keep it short because we're running up against our time, Mike. But anyway, I wanted to introduce Mike, who's been around the aviation industry a long, long time.
A dinosaur.
And I mean that in a complimentary
way, dinosaur.
Mike. Okay.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to come in and give you a little update on what we're doing at the Colorado Aviation Network. We are a relatively new association here in Colorado. We're a little over 2 years old. We've really got three really main areas that we focus on, and I'll say those first, and then I'll tell you why. We really focus on professional networking, critical thinking, and strategic guidance for Colorado aviation. Now, the reason we are zeroed in on those three objectives is the founding members of the Colorado Aviation Network did a fair amount of research in the industry, and it was clear that there was not a single group or other organization in the state that was really focused on how do we grow Colorado aviation industry for the future. And so, we're all involved in the short-term decision-making process, but we really don't have a long-term strategic framework and a pathway to make effective decisions to grow the industry in Colorado. And so that was the premise on why the association was formed. Now, back to the networking and the critical thinking and the strategic guidance, they're all interrelated. It's highly desirable and very effective when all of the decision makers in the industry are aligned with each other. And so we facilitate a lot of that professional networking across the industry so that we've got the ability to take experts and long-term wise aviation professionals that can analyze issues from a 360-degree perspective. So we're not coming at it from a pilot perspective. We're not coming at it from a pure governmental perspective. We're not coming at it from an FBO perspective, but rather we're bringing all of these seasoned executives together to really tackle issues with that 360-degree perspective in order to create consensus and provide sound pathways to make effective decision-making that will be effective now, but also won't handicap us and it will in fact lead us to better decision-making that creates a long-term benefit in how we grow the industry strategically. And so that's really kind of why we were founded. And as I mentioned, we represent all of aviation. So we don't just come at it from a business aviation perspective. We don't come at it from a commercial aviation. We don't come at it from an airport perspective. We're all in the same game and we all play in the same playing field. And so we want to bring all of those industry niches together so that we work together collaboratively in building that network and consensus for profitable growth in Colorado. So that's what we're about. We've done a great job in growing the organization over the last 2 years. We've got some very significant corporate members. We have individual professional members, and we have a very special group of members in the network called our ambassador membership. And the ambassadors are, and I use the term lovingly, the gray hairs of the industry. These are the long-term seasoned professionals that have the experience and the wisdom and the foresight to bring their perspectives to the table and really give us that rich dialogue and perspective as we tackle the numerous issues and topics of importance in Colorado aviation. I want to give a shout out to Dave Lane here. He's one of our ambassadors. He's got enough gray hair to qualify and whiskers. But it's a perfect example of how Dave and his role representing Colorado State can really bring that perspective into our discussions and make our discussions rich about how we tackle these issues and really provide that framework for looking long-term strategically. So that's what we're about. There's a couple of events coming up here that I also want to let you know about, and one we're very excited about. It's our 2026 Leadership Summit, and it'll be held September 16th in Denver up at the Inverness Hotel. And it's our first inaugural event to really bring a much broader cross-section of industry professionals under the theme of shaping tomorrow's skies, innovation, vision, and leadership. And that conference theme fits right into our vision and mission for the for the aviation network. And that is, how do we bring these various perspectives across all aspects of the industry and shape that for effective future decision making. So I invite you all to check out our website, coloradoavnetwork.com, give you more information on that. And we've just recently announced our keynote speaker for that event, and her name is Jessica Cox. I don't know if any of you have heard of her. She is an amazing woman. She was the first certified pilot to fly an airplane without arms. Amazing woman. I met her this past winter, and she graciously agreed to be our keynote speaker. And she will really set the conference off on the right foot with illustrating from personal experience how that vision and innovation and leadership can really propel one to great things. So we invite you to take a look at that. And then finally, I know there's probably a few golfers. Fall golf in Colorado is really, really nice. So we have our golf event on October 5th at Denver Park Golf Course, Denver City Park Golf Course. So consider joining us for that. But anyway, I invite you all to check us out and join the network. The more, the better. The more we have, the richer the discussion, and the better we are for growing Colorado aviation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move right ahead because we're running a little short on time, right into our program updates. So I'll turn it over to Hetty.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm going to skip ahead in the interest of time. We could probably do a brief on the next director's report for next month on that to tell you all about Denver School of Science and Technology. So, but just to kind of highlight some of the events that we've been at is Public Safety Day. Again, as Sean mentioned in his presentation today, the importance of emergency access to airports. So always a fun day at Wings Over the Rockies. And then Falcon Aero Lab actually did some 14-year-old solos over a couple of days last month, at the end of last month. So they are also an education grant recipient for their Build a Plane project. So, and I have been told that they did complete their RV-12. So we should hear a little bit more about that as well. And then, of course, we did participate in the Centennial Airport Runway 5K. Over half of our staff, including family members, participated. It was a great day. So thank you again, Centennial. Oh yeah. Great. Did you want to show Carson up there? Yeah. So cute. And then we will see you at EAA Air Venture 2026. Again, this year, this will be our third year there, Hangar C, and partnering with Colorado Pilots Association as well as MSU Denver. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a long week, but it's going to be a fun week. So that's it.
Thank you. I think Dave, you're up next.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one more quick program update that I neglected to mention during my director's report. Eric Fences, the airport manager for Boulder, is not able to attend, but he did ask me to share with all of you that thanks to their $63,000 subsidy grant the board approved for unleaded fuel earlier this year, they expect to have their fixed base operator Journeys Aviation make unleaded 94 fuel available at that airport by the end of July. So apologies for missing that earlier. So I'll give you just a real quick update on remote tower on behalf of Frequentis. Bill Payne unfortunately was not able to join us either in person or online. I've covered most of that in my previous agenda item. FAA is continuing to move forward on system design approval work out at the tech center. But what I did want to share is a little bit of a change in our remote tower program management. And I think you all know very well that Bill has been just an ardent supporter of this. He has been our contracted program manager for this work for the better part of 15 years. And as we're required to do as a state agency, we have to re-procure those every so often, every 5 years. In this case, for this type of work, we went through that process earlier this year since Bill's current contract ends with us on June 30th. And after that process, the selection committee and CDOT, I'm proud to say that we selected the folks from Wolpert to become our new remote tower program manager moving forward effective July 1. And I'm happy to introduce two familiar faces on the Wolpert team that will be working with us as we move this work forward. John Bauer, you all know John, former FAA Airports District Office Manager. I've had the privilege of working with him literally for the last 30 years at every airport I've been at in Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. So I'm looking forward to helping carry this forward with your help. And then Greg Dyer, another fantastic gentleman. He was a key part of us implementing wide area multilateration back in the early 2000s at our mountain airports when he was also with FAA, former manager of the Denver Air Route Traffic Control Center in Longmont. So we just have a fantastic team to help us move this to the next stage, which I think is really going to be important to note. We're now going to be able to use some of the FAA's money to help us do this. And that's where John's expertise as somebody knowing the FAA's ins and outs of funding is going to be incredibly valuable. So we certainly appreciate all that Bill and WEPA have done for many, many years with WAM, with Greg, with John. We were going to recognize Bill at a later date. And I think he'll still be a very passionate supporter of that, even though he won't technically be working for us. You will still see him supporting that going forward. And I wish he was here so that we could say thank you to him, but we will certainly do that at a later date. But I'll turn it over to John and Greg and see if you have anything to add, but we're going to look forward to partnering with you on this.
Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Director, we very, very much appreciate the opportunity. We're very excited about it. I can guarantee you, Greg and I, with 60 years plus experience combined within the agency, will diligently track the changes between remote, digital, remote. We will predict that will go back to digital sometime in the next 18 months, and we'll keep you fully advised on that. But we are very excited to be part of this emerging, always changing technology in the system. We look forward to bringing some of the funding expertise and our traffic expertise to aeronautics and working with Dave and his team. We're very, very excited about that partnership. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And I would note that I think I played a huge role in the 7% increase of fuel sales at Denver over the last month or so with all the flying I've been doing. But thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been my pleasure to work with Dave and all the majority of you for a long time. So thank you for having us back, and we look forward to it in the next part of this journey. So thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks too. Really appreciate this opportunity to work on this project. Bill and I don't think realized it would be this kind of relay race. Bill and I were in Syracuse, New York in 2006, I think, when we saw our first remote tower, digital tower mock-up, and our eyes both got big. And so it's really exciting to go forward with this. 5 weeks ago, I went back to the Atlantic City Tech Center to just kind of do some due diligence and see the state of the technology, and the safety enhancements that are automatically built into the system are really impressive. It's really evolved. So it's a great time. It's really a good time to go forward with this. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. And to use Mike's term, we're happy to have all your expertise, and I think you're qualified as ambassadors with 60 years. So, but thank you. We're excited to move forward. Next up, we have legislative updates, and I don't have any. Dave, do you want to give an update?
Just one very brief state piece of legislation of interest, Madam Chair. A couple of weeks ago, the governor signed House Bill 26-1076 into law. Very sexy title, statutory cleanup. It was very cool for us. Every year, CDOT runs a bill to clean up some of the parts of statute that are archaic or out of date or do not align with actual practice. One of the things we work to get in that bill is we have finally extricated ourselves the very last engagement that we had with the Transportation Commission on our SIB loan program. Over the last many years, we've been slowly bringing all of that authority back to you as also a Type 1 board, which is what the TC is. And so statute was kind of weird. It provided that you all had the approval to transfer funds from our aviation fund into the SIB account, which you have done previously. But it required the TC's approval to move it back, which just didn't make any sense. And so CDOT agreed that didn't make any sense, and we got that fixed. And now you all have the sole approval to move funds back and forth between the SIB and our aviation fund without any more engagement from the TC. So much more efficient, quicker, and again, allows us to be more nimble. So I really appreciate the support of our CDOT counterparts and the TC in making that happen. So that's really the only legislative update I have for you today.
Great, Dave. And just given the timing of the action items today, I want to make sure that we all understand clearly. So now the Transportation Commission will not be involved in SIB loan applications that are strictly using aeronautics funding.
That is
right?
correct. That's only for aviation funds, correct. We still need their approval to do the transfer from the highway, the loan for the loan. That still needs to come from them. But for our aviation program, that's now solely within the purview of your board.
Right. Okay. Next, we have our proposed calendar.
You bet. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not on your agenda that's printed, but I would ask you to write down July 16th. If you are interested, the Spartan College at Rocky Mountain Metro Airport has invited us for a tour to see their aviation maintenance program and their flight training operation at BJC. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know and we'll set up a time. But July 16th is the date that they're able to accommodate us for that. And then looking forward on our regular CAB business, Tuesday, August 25th, out at our shop in Watkins is our annual full-day CAB staff workshop from 8 to 5, followed by our regular August meeting on August 26th at 9 a.m. I would also ask you that you temporarily or at least conditionally flag a potential tour of the Denver TRACON after that meeting, since you're all there and it's just kind of literally right down the street. I'm going to work with Greg here to help us hopefully facilitate that later that morning or that afternoon at the TRACON. I know you all have been clamoring for it. I've been around here a long time. I've never been there. So looking forward to it. And then lastly, we're all looking forward, I know, Angela, to coming to see you on Friday, October 2nd for our regular October meeting, which will be at her airport in Grand Junction. And that's your calendar, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. We look forward to hosting everyone and having you stay for the air show. So, are there any other matters from any board members?
Madam Chair, I just want to apologize to my Eastern Plains government's colleague that I took over and didn't say I'm only part of Eastern Plains. So I apologize to him.
I think everyone knows it takes two people to cover. So you're good. Three.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know everybody's very sick of hearing from me on this, but I do want to beat the point to death because until we get this maxed out every year, I will keep bringing it up. Reminder that we are still available for unleaded fuel infrastructure grants until we max this out. I'm going to still talk about it. I do want to say, thank you to Fremont County. That's awesome. We weren't expecting it. We're super glad for you to have that. I just, since we're down here, wanted to say awesome. So happy to see that. So happy for you guys to take advantage. So for those of you who have any interest, the opportunity exists for next year. We do want to see you taking advantage of those. So if you're sick of hearing me talk about it, talk amongst yourselves, take full advantage of that, and then you will stop hearing about it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you for letting us have an extra 15 minutes.
So I try to be nice, but instead I just